Strikers, once thought to be a cog in the machine of soccer, has now been skewed to the ball rolling down a hill all on its own. Void of the help of back and midfielders, is scoring the goal truly the only thing necessary? Hello and welcome back to the second episode of the Anime Watch Party podcast. I am your co-host Kobe, joined along with.
And I am Jared, also known as Luigi vs. Shadow. And today we're talking about Blue Lock. It's a sport anime about soccer, but it's very much so not like any other sports anime I've watched.
Yeah, I guess to get right into it, the whole like driving point of the once believed like team-based sport has been like spun on its head, and the show follows the main character going into a program to be the best striker in the organization or in Japan, and it completely eliminates the thought of team-based uh, team-based strategy
It's a
in the show.
competition for just being the best. Um, Whereas like an anime like Haikyuu, which I love to death as well, that's all about, oh, you need to work in tandem, work in sync. In Blue Lock, it's all about having it in your mind that you are better,
Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
because you are better, you will score the goal. And it's a very interesting and like twisted philosophy on what would normally be, we need to do it as a team.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think that the show does a really good or does really well in exploring the different characters' thought processes and how they handle the situation of the competitions they face. Um, but yeah, no. So kind of covering the whole synopsis of it, we follow the main character Isagi, um, and he once thought to be the star of this of his team, uh, loses his like game winning uh game
He
match.
he loses the match to go to nationals for his high school team, because there was just a decision he made, and so he ends up losing that. But afterwards, he gets an invitation to a weird experiment, you could say, called Blue Lock, which is where the actual story of the entire anime takes place. Almost like a survival games type thing where you compete in these challenges and more people get eliminated until it's the best striker standing.
Yeah, yeah. And you follow the character who at the beginning is very like remorseful and is sad about his loss and thinking back on uh the the game that was within the first few seconds of the first episode, and what he could have done better, and his anger towards the decision he made that ultimately costed the game. Um, and after all this, uh, you meet the character of Ego, who is this anomaly, this really like
He's a psycho.
he's a horrible person, yeah,
He's
like a
crazy.
psychopath.
He has like some really weird like Discord mod vibes,
No, truly.
right? He gets on the call and he starts calling the players things like diamonds in the rough. That it's just very uncomfortable to hear a lot of the
Hmm.
times because the
Hmm.
dude doesn't have social skills.
Verbatim, my little diamonds of the rough, or in
Yeah.
the rough. Like, oh, this guy is weird.
Hello,
But
Discord kitten.
um, and it's like he has this idea of fostering these people by literally destroying their dreams, and that's where like the character dynamics are so interesting because you're immediately thrown into this room of 300, I no more than three, no, it was 300 soccer players, and like you're thrown like names of people and whatnot and what they're good at. You're like, ah man, I'm super hyped of
Oh, that
this.
guy's from that famous school. That guy's
Dude,
from the top team. That guy's, and they're all from like different regions where, where these people shouldn't meet in a normal circumstance.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, Especially, I think it was, oh, man, I can't remember, but it was like the Messi of Japan, or I think it was a specific high school or something like that. A character that just straight up isn't talked about at all.
Nope. There he is, Blue Lock's Messi. What does he do?
Absolutely nothing. I think they just name dropped him, and that was that.
Yep.
But it's really interesting. So you get all these different character dynamics, and then like immediately the not even just the main cast of characters, but like you see all these unique character designs, and it kind of gets you excited just watching it and seeing the many different characteristics of these characters getting like thrown out of proportion and explained later in their ways of playing soccer, I guess.
Yeah.
It also talks about and mentions like real life soccer players, in particular Isagi's like um, main inspiration is Noel something, Noel Noah,
Yeah.
who is a French forward, um, and like that's just somebody he always looked up to and always wanted to emulate. And now he's put into this position where, uh, in order to advance through Blue Lock, you have to basically eliminate those around you, and whoever is eliminated in Blue Lock is forever casted out of Japan's soccer team.
They are never allowed to professionally play in soccer if they lose in Blue Lock, which is really weird that this dude Ego just has this power.
Especially because like um I'm not too sure. I'm not fully caught up on the manga. Jared's a lot farther than I am, and we won't really be going into the manga. But like Ego is set up to be this like amazing soccer player, but he's not like mentioned outside, or like I don't know if he has any connections or ties to like to a real life soccer player. So it's really interesting seeing this like shadow government type guy who has been working in the background and is this anomaly.
I mean, that is what he is. He is just a shadow government guy. The most that's explained is that like he's like a really big shot coach, I think is what the role they gave him. And
Mhm,
so he's always been, or he has a connection to like this girl who's very high up in Japan's like soccer board.
mhm, mhm,
And the girl has the dream of making Japan one of the world's greatest teams. And in
mhm.
order to do that, she hires this coach who's really crazy, but his crazy idea just might work.
And it's like how he cultivates his players is extremely interesting. And I think going into the first topic of today's podcast is the idea of being a striker and being an egoist, as they portrayed in this show. So being an egoist is being focused on yourself and being and saying basically, I'm better than everybody around me. I'm gonna make this next point, and I'm not gonna help any of the other people around me from or to make this point. It's just gonna be me. I'm the star of the show.
Yeah, they make it a
Uh,
point. They make it a point where at the very first episode, Isagi like chants this thing that his high school coach tells him, which is, "Oh, soccer is a game played by a team of 11 people on a field,
mhm,
and you need to work with your team to score." And it's that mentality that makes him lose in the very first episode. But
mhm,
the whole concept of being an egoist is, yeah, soccer is about 11 people on a field, but you're a striker.
mhm.
You're the best one. You're the one
And
that scores the goal.
the people who make the goal are the stars of the show. Um,
Who cares about everyone else?
and
You're the striker.
mhm, mhm. And we see this like idea evolve and like honestly make sense in a sane person's mind, which is crazy to me because like at the beginning you're like I feel like the average watcher is like, man, like what's the point of a team sport if you're not going to act as a team? But like going into like episode after episode, it's almost like these puzzle pieces getting put together and connected as to what it means to have that drive and conviction.
Yeah, what Blue Lock ends up being, it doesn't end up being like this weird like Hunger Games esque thing where everyone's basically trying to put everyone else down. It ends up being this like sense of rivalry where everyone's so desperate to win that they start looking and seeing what each other are doing and figuring out what they can do that's better than that, or if they can mimic that, or if they can like use that person's skill to their own advantage.
Hmm.
And it's just these egoists figuring out how to be the best version of themselves.
And in a roundabout way, culminates into a teamwork of its own, um, and something that like I strive to apply to like my own life. As like cringy as that is, I feel like there's a message to be heard from it.
Definitely, like I said, it's about being the best version of yourself, and sometimes you need to get humbled by somebody who scores a point on you, or sometimes you just gotta have the confidence to know that this is something you can achieve and know how exactly you can achieve something. It's a
Mhm.
mentality that can be brought into any everyday life when it comes to like a project, or even like with schooling. It's like, oh, I have an essay due tomorrow. I could do this. I'm a striker. I could do this in a day. I got this. And
Yeah.
it's a very positive outlook to have.
It's the never giving up mentality, and it's so intriguing that that mentality is shown in a way like this. Whereas in like other popular franchises like Naruto, where he's like, I'm gonna be Okage, and you know, my Nindo is shit. What is his Nindo? I think it's not never giving up. Oh God, I don't remember. It was something along those lines, and this is such a toxic version of that, and I love it for every bit that it is.
It feels very real, less handholdy.
Yeah, yeah. It's very it's almost like the pessimistic view of this otherwise thought to be like a optimistic viewpoint. Um, and it works very well displaying itself like that.
Yeah, it's about like almost bullying yourself,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah.
finding the motivation not in looking on the bright side, but like looking at everything you can do, everything like your opposition can't do,
Hmm.
right? And just making sure to use everything to put yourself on top.
Hmm. No, yeah. Um, and outside of Isagi, the character motivations, he just wants to be a soccer player, which is fine. And he wants to be the best at it. And I guess everybody boiled down is that. But meeting the other like main cast of characters is super cool. Like like one guy wants to be a superhero, um, and another person wants to be unshackled from his past trauma, or another person wants to provide for their family. And
One of
Blue
them
Lock,
just wanted to play with other people,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like there's players that I reflect on where it's like, yeah, I just got too good for my friends and they couldn't keep up, and Blue Lock provided them a space where people are actively keeping up and actively like getting better than them.
And in these moments, like wholesome interactions are formed in what is otherwise thought to be such a toxic environment. And it's really nice to see that. Uh, and I think that it's like a testament to the idea of like you can be a really good or do really good at what you do and still have space to work with others and inspire others to do better in that field as well.
Yeah, it's not a wholly selfish mentality of I'm a striker, I'm better. It's we're still a team. I just need to score the point because I know I can score the point. I have every
Mhm.
confidence in myself, not necessarily in everyone else, but you see in the episodes where these people, despite them all wanting to score, if they see that a certain player has a little extra drive in them or has like a little extra gas in the tank where it's like, oh, that guy is going to score the point. And it
Mhm.
causes like these characters who all at their core are selfish, and that's like the whole point of the anime is that they're selfish. But when they see somebody break into a like a beast mode and go into this flow state, they almost instinctively like pass the ball to that person because that person at that moment is the striker.
Yeah, and it turns into this like, how can I use this person's ability to get myself to my own goal? And I which is admittedly so a toxic mentality, but
Very.
in the end, it pushes them all together um, to uh, win in this situation.
Yeah, they always like overcome their challenges by just like not only being a competition against the enemy teams, but a competition with everyone on your own team.
Definitely, definitely, and it's this this infighting that breeds ego, and uh, the egoist inside all of the players slowly um, leaks through, and it's really awesome seeing that. Uh, but with that being said, this probably ends the spoiler-free section. So we're gonna start getting into the episode specifics. We're gonna remain within roughly the first 12 episodes of the anime, and yeah. So starting off, the first episode sets up everything so well.
Yep.
Like the speech Ego gives at the beginning.
Well, even
Actually,
even before that,
yeah.
like the I mentioned this earlier. The first episode opens with Isaki saying, "Oh, soccer's a game with 11 people on a team, right?"
Hmm.
And so what causes him to lose is that he sees that his friend is open or that his
Hmm.
teammate is open while he's dribbling the ball to the goal. And he has a shot himself and he thinks he can make the shot, but there's like a couple blockers. Meanwhile, his teammate is completely free.
Hmm.
So he does the smart thing, the logical thing, and passes it to his teammate who whiffs the shot.
Yes, and it's like I think the art really carries a lot, and or it doesn't carry a lot, but it does so well at showing the intensity of the situation that they're in, and like these the players have to make these decisions in like hundredths of a second, you know. So it's all based on instinct, and it's this false instinct that was built in through camaraderie that really is the crux of them going to nationals or
Yeah, so
yeah,
he
nationals.
fails because of this mentality, and it's not like a wrong mentality. Yeah, it's a team sport. You're supposed to work as a team, but because he did, and because he passed when it was a shot he knew in himself that he can make, he ended up losing.
Hmm.
But it's not all too bad because Isagi's strength as a player was noticed by Ego in the end, and he was invited to Blue Lock.
Hmm.
So he did get his like second chance at fame, so to say.
And I do want to note that it's important the person who makes the goal on him, the enemy striker, the opposing team striker, is this golden boy of a character who is also invited to Blue Lock.
Yep.
So kind of in this depression, um, the like visuals that you get of like Isagi not crying at the end with his team, and really just being
He's angry at himself.
it's yeah, it's like an internalized like depression. I mean, just think like this is your dream that's getting you know, trampled over, and this is your last chance to achieve that dream.
What could I have done
And it was
better?
yeah, and it was
What could have?
all his fault.
Yep.
So after he gets back in that first episode, gets the letter, is invited to Blue Lock, in showing up, he is met with the rival striker that won
His number
uh
one op.
yeah, that won the point over him after he failed. And it is this like golden retriever, golden boy-esque dude who has the character design of a main character, and I honestly kind of fucking hated him. Uh, he was just annoying because he was so like, oh hey, you were so good on that team, man. You were honestly like the best there. But too bad you lost.
I
I
think he
hate
says
people
something
like that.
along the lines of it's like, yeah, I totally love it if you'd pass the ball to me.
Yes, and oh my god, I hated that. Um, and this is where they walk into um the building, and that's where you see all these players that have interesting designs. There's like a set of twins, and you're like, oh man, this is weird. And
You're not
Ego's
gonna see
speech
half of them.
starts. Yeah, Ego's speech starts, and like he opens up, basically explaining to them, oh yeah, we're gonna just like make you guys into the winning team of the World Cup.
I think one of my favorite things about his speech is that he just like openly shit talks real players.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
he gets all these people in a room and he gives them the whole speech on, yeah, you need to be an egoist and you need to be a striker and all of what entails that we've talked about earlier. But
Hmm.
then he also starts giving real examples of like actual soccer players, I think he name drops Messi and
Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't
Hmm.
think they have the quotes from him, but they do get a quote from a real player who, like a real center forward player for soccer, who's who went on record saying something along the lines of, "I don't care about my team. I make the points."
Yeah, it was oh man. I can't find the specific one. Oh, here it is. The world's best forward midfielder, uh Pele was
Mhm.
like yeah, oh oh god, I can't find the direct quote. I just know that that's who he was talking about. Um yeah, the world's best forward, midfielder, defense, goalkeeper, whichever you ask about, the answer is still me. Like, this dude is just fucking full of it, but he
Yeah,
he can back it up.
he's
He's
the number
like,
one.
yeah. Um, and he name drops, namely Noel Noah, so the striker that the main character looks up to, and Eric Cantona. Um, just destroying the ideologies of these soccer players, and namely the golden retriever guys. Like, wait, but if we enter in this program that's like months long, we're not going to be able to play with our teams that are like going to go into like finals or like
High
state
school
and shit like that.
nationals.
Yeah, and he's like, and he goes like, God, he's a dweeb. He is a Discord mod. Bro says lock off.
Yeah.
He created his own term, just like, yeah, just fucking leave. We don't need people like you if you don't want to have that ego to leave your team to be the best.
And we're not even doing ego justice, like as like painting a picture. Anybody can break this man.
Hmm.
He is a twig. Like, you need minimal physical effort to like hurt this dude, and he's just talking with such like an authoritative, like demanding nature of, oh, everyone in this room is garbage.
Mhm. Mhm.
And oh, you could play high school, sure, if all you want is to settle for being the best in high school, I guess. But I'm trying to build the best in the world, and that's what Blue Lock is for.
Mhm. And like to even add on to this picture of Ego, he's like this tall, lanky man with soulless eyes, a fucking bowl cut, and glasses. Like this
God,
is your
yeah,
dictionary definition of like an accountant. I swear to God.
he's a fucking dweeb.
Yeah. Uh so he's like the yeah, the lone hero who will stand atop 299 corpses because there's 300 people invited to this thing.
He calls them
Um
corpses.
yeah. Yeah. Uh so he's just saying that one person will climb to the top and the first person to I guess elect to join this is the main character Isagi, or is depicted in
At the
the
very least,
show.
it shows him start running, and then like a flood of everyone else in the room starts running. Even the
Hmm.
like golden retriever boy, who's like, but I want to play with my team that's going to nationals. Even he starts running towards the gates of Blue Lock, which like it's a prison
Yeah.
once they get in, right? Like, so
It.
episode one ends and they get in and they're in an insane asylum,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? They're
Yeah, it opens up them up in like getting into uniforms. It's very Danganronpa
they have
in
to give up all
how
their possessions.
yeah, and like lose their outside lives and in hopes to succeed in this event. And this is where Ego drops the bombshell of, yeah, so if you lose here, I'm gonna personally make sure that you never have a career in soccer in Japan. And it's like, what do we sign up for? So all these people are like are losing their minds, and the first game they play is essentially tag.
Yep. Where they play this game where if you have possession of the soccer ball, you are it.
Mhm.
And whoever is it at the end of like 20 minutes or whatever, you're gone. Done. You'll never play soccer again. Anyway,
Uh,
start.
it's like a weird arbitrary number, but it's later explained that like it's the average amount of time that the average player has in the strike box, I think it's called, or something similar. And the room was roughly the size of that box.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and then this is also where they're assigned their respective like rankings in Blue Lock.
And our main
So
character is the second to last.
yes, 299. Um, and in this game of like tag, you see the desperation start to appear in people because the 300th spot is um, the like who is it first.
Yeah, and just talking
So
about the 300 slot, his whole thing is that he's like a monk,
yeah, for
right?
whatever reason.
So he's a monk, and he explains to Izuki, because I don't know, he's an approachable guy, I guess, um, that he wants to play soccer because he really doesn't want to inherit the shrine. That's
Uh,
it. That's his reasoning. And so, since he's in last place, he starts off with the ball, and he's desperate to hit somebody, and he is
mhm.
failing.
Yeah, he's so pathetic.
Yeah,
Uh, I honestly don't like the character in general. But he what ends up happening is he hits somebody on a whim and then like holds Isagi up to like have him hit instead of
he
instead of
uses
himself.
Izuki as a body shield.
That's fucking stupid. But Isagi then has the ball, and the dude who got him the 300th spot like twists his ankle, and he's in prime shot of like
He's
getting
a
him out.
sitting duck.
Yeah, and this is where Isagi has his revelation of no, I don't want to get the fucking chump. He's below me. I want to shoot for the main guy of our group.
He
and the
wants to
main
go for
guy,
number one. He wants to get number one out.
and number one in their group is the golden retriever boy that was like, "Yeah, you can pass to. I'd love to have you pass to me." Uh, and in like this sparks this too epic for soccer, extravaganza of him going to shoot him, or shoot at him,
Yeah,
hit him
taking
with
the
a
shot.
soccer ball, in which he ends up hitting him at the last second, um, and he is out. And that's the second episode, or no, the end of the first episode.
Yeah, that's just how the first episode ends. And like even the way that ends is really interesting because what ends up happening is another player in his block, which is the Z block, ends up seeing this like fire in Iski's eyes and sees that Iski wants to take on number one. And so this character is Bachira, who we'll get onto him later, but he ends up stealing the ball from Iski and going after number one as well.
Hmm.
And it gets to this point where they get him cornered, and Bachira passes the ball to Iski, who then makes the shot. And it's this big thing because, like, oh, he's taking the shot. He's scoring, right? He's the
Hmm.
striker
Hmm.
in this situation. And that's how they get this just a prick, right? And that's how they get him knocked out.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so satisfying, and it opens up in the next episode of this once golden boy just being fucking pissed, and oh, it's so satisfying to see him like
He is
finally get out.
throwing a tantrum.
You ruined my dream. Wah wah wah. Fuck him. Um, and yeah, so now it kind of starts introducing everybody else because uh, soccer is ran in 11 people persons teams.
Yep. It started off as
And
blocks of 12. One person gets knocked out, and now that there's 11 people, there's enough for a full team of soccer. Wow, imagine that. It's almost like Ego planned this.
all from the start calculated. Um, and yeah, so after they get started, it introduces the players in like training with each other. So just doing general like physical um, fitness. What is it? What was the term I'm coming?
They're
Uh,
doing physical tests.
conditioning. Or no, it was just physical tests to set. Yeah. And like it kind of starts highlighting the um the
The various
areas of which,
strengths of every character, like what
yeah,
they're good at.
and
Like
it goes into like the builds of each character, so like whether they're big or small and the advantages either has on each other.
yep, like you have like a lanky guy, you've got a guy who's like super tall, and it directly shows Iski like jumping with him, and he gets like a solid foot of extra air height,
And
right?
it kind of like sets these examples, and on top of that, all of them have really interesting character designs outside of three of them, which like genuinely look like background characters. um
Yeah.
but yeah, and like even the like monk guy has, his own moment kind of, um but you're mainly focused on this huge muscular guy who has a really strong straight kick, and then this, I mean, I'll be honest, he looks like a twink, but the princess of the team, Chigiri, who has long flowing pink hair, um, and is very slender in build, but he's like kind of a mystery at that time.
Yeah, so it,
And
it very clearly points at like the four main characters of this block being Isagi, the main character, of course, Bachira, who's like built up to be his sidekick, and then their two friends, Kunagami, who Kobe is talking about, is like the straight shooter. That's his big strength, and then Chigiri, who at that time, at the very start of the anime, um, basically isn't talking to anybody. He's like being edgy in a corner,
mhm.
right?
um, and ultimately ends up having a character arc that I relate to myself, but we'll get into that later. But getting into the first game, they face off against a team that is carried by King Baro, uh, who just seems to be this like hulking mass that's just good at everything.
Yep. Baro's whole character gimmick is that he is the king of the court. As long as he is on the court, the ball goes to where he declares it goes, and all goals are scored by him because he is the king.
And it's truly the like he I think is a great start as like the I guess I don't want to call it arc villain because this is an arc, but like a
Match
small
villain,
match villain, yeah. And it's just the team pushing him to make the goals.
and he's a
Um,
really good example of Ego's philosophy of
mhm.
just being
What
the
it means to be
best,
an egoist, yeah.
right? Like, even carrying past where the anime goes, King's whole character development is he is not going to change. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's really interesting that the first opponent they have is someone that is the entire representation of what Blue Lock is and what Blue Lock
hmm
is trying to make you into.
hmm and the team or Isagi's team um all have the idea of being an egoist in their heads. And they all try to make the goals and they're just not working with each other. In fact, there's a shit ton of infighting and butting heads instead of working together. And they end up losing their first match. Um, that's the crux of it. Uh, though near the end, Isagi and fuck, what's his face? Passer guy, schizophrenic.
Oh, Bashira.
Bachira work together to make a single point. Um,
And it's this whole big moment because it's Isagi realizing that there's a weak point on their team, and Bachir, like, so Isagi using his like skill of just knowing the field, realizing that
mhm,
there's weak spots on the field, which is wherever the hell King isn't, and then Bachira's skill of just being really good at getting the ball forward, and
dribbling it.
it's this mixture of their two, like, you could call them powers, as like other animes would reflect upon them, that are working in tandem that allow them to score this 1 point. And even
hmm
though they don't win because of that, this 1 point significant because it means that Isagi's ranking shoots up.
hmm And it's so at the beginning of this or before the game starts, Ego comes out and talks about like has this spiel basically saying like um you have to turn the 0 into 1 and then the 1 into 100. So this is where Isagi figures out what that means is making that first point is the motivation everybody needs to um, open up that the next 100 goals or 99 goals. Um, and thus starts the now strategizing of what they should do going into the next match.
Or, well, first they try to figure out what everyone's strengths is,
hmm
right? And so we get a little bit more in depth on what everyone does, right? And as we said with Iski and Bachira, they're real. Iski's got like spatial awareness. Bachira has really good dribbling.
hmm
Kunigami, who's the nicknamed hero, has just a really strong straight shot. And then a bunch of other like more side characters. One guy, a lanky guy, has really good spontaneous reflexes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
because he's so lanky, he can just make the most absurd catches.
You'll see him like toss his body directly into a pole
Like,
to just block a shot
well,
or
yeah, to
catch it.
block a shot, or like he will like fling his head at the ball to score a point by just, oh, the ball's too far to the right, I'ma just jump and hit it.
hmm
Like straight Smash Brothers Luigi side B style of just launching himself at it,
hmm
right? And then the only other one that's like super prevalent is Kuon, who's like who's painting himself as like the almost like team leader.
Hmm.
right? He's got like a very approachable atmosphere with him, and he's the one who's trying to figure out everyone's strength. And his strength is he jumps high, and he's so tall, and he could jump so high that if you just shoot the ball high enough, nobody else but him will reach it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right, and then there's other characters like the shark. I don't quite remember what he does. Do you?
Yeah, I don't remember either. It was so long ago.
Yeah, he's not featured in like too prevalently in the start, but like he's like the best description I could give on him. His name is Raichi.
Mhm.
Is he's the person who eggs everyone on, right?
Mhm.
He
Uh, it
he he's very
it
confrontational. He will insult you, and that will get you to be a better player.
Mhm. Mhm. His how he describes his weapon to be is his shooting technique,
Yeah,
whatever that means.
yeah, it means nothing. Same thing with
Mhm.
like the monk, and then the other two side characters, as we called him, Naruhaya, Imamura. They have abilities, I guess. One of them's like, oh, he romances the ball, whatever that means.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then the last character, the 11th character, is it
Chigiri.
no, or Chigiri will explain later, but Iamon, he has a power. Unfortunately, he's just kind of locked into being the goalie.
Yes, he just kind of describes himself as being like an all-arounder, and honestly, like he's just the homie
Yeah, he's really
in the
cool.
end. Yeah, and he bites the bullet, takes the worst choice of position
Literally the
given the
only position
circumstances.
incapable of like scoring a point.
Yeah, yeah.
And like it's really sad though, because like he's done really dirty. He gets one good moment, right? I think throughout the entire first arc, he blocks one shot,
Hmm.
and he's one of the few characters of Z Block who doesn't make it into the next wave.
Hmm.
Like he's done so dirty, and I feel so bad for him because he has potential that just literally wasn't ever shown, and every other character has some moment in the anime except for him.
Yeah, just genuinely just used as a tool. But yeah, and then like the other characters are colorful. And then Chigiri is all mysterious. Yeah, I don't want to mention or talk about my weapon. And Isagi is still trying to figure out his weapon at this time. Um, but I yeah, that kind of goes into their planning and how they can best utilize their weapons. So they plan off three pairs or three trios,
They plan to
or a
rotate
trio of people.
the three forwards every quarter
Hmm.
and try to play to any of those three strengths. And if there's an emergency
Yeah,
where any of those strengths don't work, then they'll just force the rotation.
switch out. And it's like it's really interesting how they handle this, and in what was their like main crux of losing really really badly in the first game kind of turns into this. Okay, let's work to our strengths together. And
Yep.
this is where I'd say Blue Lock's main ideology evolves first. Of okay, let's do our best on our own so we can enhance everyone else's abilities. And the team they face, Team Y, features this mohawk wielding dude, Hibiki Okawa, um, and some other nameless dopes, and they work together to do this. Now,
Nameless, nameless. You put some
we'll get into
respect
it.
on the actual main character of Team Y as they show off,
Yeah,
named Nico.
Nico's a dude, and this is explored. So in the first half of the game, they're like destroyed, and it seemingly is their forward golden player, um, Hibiki, who is the star of the show, making all the goals. But in the background, Isagi keeps seeing this aura, as he describes in the show itself. Uh, but he quickly finds out Hibiki is just a puppet in Nico's game, and Nico is this. He doesn't stand out at all. You can't see his eyes, and when you do see his eyes, they're like,
He sees the entire
"Ah."
field.
Yeah, and that's his like spatial awareness is his weapon in controlling the field and controlling where the ball is. So they're like constantly uh, making sure that the shot or the goal is made.
And
And in
while
the
the
second half,
entire in the second half, while the entire team is focused on the Mohawk guy, Isagi takes a different approach and just constantly is on Nico's ass
Mhm.
and just does not let this guy set up anything. And
Eh,
that ends up making Team Y's entire formation and strategy crumble.
mhm.
And
Because like the mastermind is now getting like threatened, and he's supposed to be the dude that no one's supposed to know about.
you've just got this one character who's marking him, and I believe they end up tying this one.
They do. So they make the goal and tie
Right,
because I
and
think they were only one
it
ahead.
leaves Isagi a moment that like sticks out is that he ends up telling Nico, "Yeah, you're good, but you need to stop relying on other people.
Hmm.
Right? If you want to make
You're
it a blue
good.
lock, you need to make you're not a
You're
striker."
just not me. Yeah, you're not me. And this is where also Isagi finds his weapon of also having like the field awareness. Um, and it's really cool how it's like displayed, and him just kind of like getting a scent of the goal, similar to Demon Slayer, but I don't want to compare it. Um, and it just works out great. It works out great. He makes his goal, uh, his first goal in the thing, tying it. No, they win.
Oh, they win that one?
Yeah, they win this one. They win this one.
Okay.
Uh,
Then it's the
it's
next one they tie, I believe.
yeah, because he looks down at the crying Nico, and looking down on him.
Oh, it's
Uh,
a really good shot.
yeah, looking down on him. He verbatim. It's so this is what it means to win. What the hell? And he's like looking down at a crying Nico, and then he's like, "This feels so good," and he's like shuddering in excitement.
Damn, it must suck
Um,
to be you.
yeah, couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. Um, it's wonderful. But yeah. So that was the second game. And then it leads into the next game. I'm trying to remember what it was.
That is
Uh,
versus the Twins.
it
Now, there's a
is.
bit of an interesting thing with this game, right? So this game, it opens up with Team Z, right? Izuki's team just kind of dominating, right? Um let's see here. I forget what team letter they're fighting against and if you can find that. But they end up just dominating with this. And so what ends up happening is that it's during Kuon's rotation, right? And Kuon's power is jumping and he's taller than everyone else on their team. So they end up shooting to him and he ends up scoring 3 points within the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's revealed that Kuon made a pact with the enemy team.
Yeah, and it's Team W.
Yeah, so he made a pact with Team W where Team W will let him score 3 points because a rule Ego set up on these games is the two teams that win the most all go through, and then the top scorer on the other three teams of the block also get to go through. So Kuon made a pact with Team W to score 3 times so that he is guaranteed a slot on the next block, and then ends up sabotaging Team Z.
And he leaves Team Z to join Team W to play, and
It's
now it's a
literally 13 on 10.
12v10, or
12v10.
no,
Yeah,
12
my
on
bad.
yeah, 12v10. Yeah. And like this is when like Team Z is just dominated. Like it's hard to account for losing a player and then gaining an enemy.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and then
especially
all
with how what's his name? Chigiri. Chigiri
Mhm.
against Team W has a bit of a history.
Yes.
Team
So
W's
they
star players are these two twins,
mhm.
and their
and they
power is that they play as twins and they're completely in sync.
Yeah, they communicate through like small facial gestures, so they have near instantaneous like responses to um enemies and in working together.
Yeah. And so this is where Chigiri's backstory was revealed, where Chigiri's power, his main strength, used to be that he's really good at sprinting. Like, dude
Mhm.
is really fast. Dude is Sonic, right?
And he was like a star player of the team
With the
that the
twins.
Twins used to be a part of. Initially was like a freshman, and then the Twins were like senior to him, and then he just blew past them because he was a
He was
prodigy,
better.
and it was awesome. And I guess this is where I connect with Chigiri a little bit because this all happened at the same time of me starting Blue Lock and this injury, but Chigiri ends up tearing his ACL on the field. And how they display this is like he's running through, using his speed to do all this stuff, and like you see his knee bend, and it's like,
It is
oh god,
gross.
this is bad. This is really bad. And he goes through the stresses of recovery, and it really hit home because I was going through the exact same thing at the time of reading it, or yeah, and watching it, and how they do physical therapy and like the exercises that are available. Though one of the exercises he does in the anime was explicitly told me not to do, which I always laughed at. But yeah, no. So he builds back up and fully recovers, but he loses his confidence in his speed, and he's always scared that he's going to re-tear or reopen this injury and lose his passion, his love for soccer.
Just lose his
Uh,
ability to play in general.
yeah, and how this is portrayed, the art that they use is like him bound by chains, like wrapped around his knee, and locked to really doing nothing but just being held back. So he always holds back to make sure he stays in a safe pace to not injure himself. Um, and it's like Isagi's going full striker on these people, just like doing constant things, not necessarily making any ground, but stopping a lot of their advances. Really, like the he shows the true extent of his spatial awareness.
And then at
And,
some point in this match, Iski ends up basically telling Chigiri to get out of the way,
mhm,
right? Because Chigiri's fear of his knee breaking again is just he's just a dead player,
mhm,
right? So he tells Chigiri get out of the way, all while the twins are just pushing into his fear of your knee's broken, you can't run. If you were at your prime, you'd be able to catch up to us, but you can't,
mhm,
right? And it all just boils over to where Chigiri just stops caring
mhm.
and he just starts running.
And it's at this point where like Isagi's like smell of a goal comes in. He's like, I'm just gonna toss it to this point. And at that point, like the players are like, ah man, you really tossed it to like a no
Yeah,
zone. Nobody's
dumbass, you
there.
toss it where nobody's there, but here comes the bullet train
And
rushing over to the
Chigiri just
complete open field.
oh, it's amazing, so satisfying. He gets it. It's this awesome shot of like him kicking it and then kicking it again into the goal in like midair.
Yep.
Amazing. And I found the panel where like Isagi just pulls him back and is like, "Move it! I'm gonna make this goal." And it's so brutal, so raw. Like it's almost like written as like a or drawn as like a uh seinen berserk esque.
Mm.
And like how detailed it is, how it shows the emotion, and then like the artistic choice in Blue Lock is to have the characters or give these characters like spiraling eyes and like a glow to them, to show like the ego leaking out of them,
The monster inside.
essentially the monster inside. and immediately like Chigiri sees this and like breaks through the chains on it that were once wrapped around his knee or knee uh, in like a beautiful panel of him running towards that ball um, and yeah, such a satisfying goal. And in this one, I'm trying to find. Do they win or do they
I
tie?
think they tie. They might even lose. Um, but for sure they make a
No.
comeback with
Yeah,
Chigiri's help.
it's a
Um,
tie.
yeah.
Hmm.
So they end up tying, 12v10. And so this puts a little pressure on them because in order to make it to the next round, in order for all of them to make it to the next round, I believe at minimum they need to tie the next one.
Hmm.
But the next one is against the strongest team,
Hmm.
right? Team W?
No, Team W was this last one. Oh man, I'm shooting through these chapters.
But yeah, they end up having to fight against the strongest team. Um, and in this team's kind of interesting because there's three star players.
Hmm.
There's I don't remember the name of the third one, but
So Zantetsu Tsurugi,
mhm,
this like nerd wearing glasses, this purple-haired dude named Reo Mikage, and Seishiro Nagi.
yeah. And so it's very interesting because there's a lot of parallels with this team compared to the main team, right? So you have Zantetsu, you said, right?
Yeah.
Who his whole thing is he's really fast, parallels to Chigiri. You have Nagi, who's really tall and can shoot really well, similar to Kunigami, another one of Team Z's like main four characters, right? And then you
Hmm.
have Rio, or I think it's Leo, or it should be, just because of some other things later on. But
Hmm.
I'm just gonna call him Leo. So Leo, who is a lot like Bachira in that he can make really good passes.
Hmm.
Um, and they're just better.
It's really funny going into the. Oh, okay, so Nagi especially is this like ambivalent like gamer dude, but Jared mentioned that he's tall, but this dude's like 6'3",
Yeah.
and as a soccer player, like this is a high speed sport. Like going in high speed like sections of the sport and like facing off a 6'3" dude who's just jetting across the field is insane. Like that has to be the scariest thing.
Not only that, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like Nagi's whole thing is that Nagi's entire character is that he just has raw talent. He plays soccer only because Leo wanted him to.
Hmm.
And I guess they got into Blue Lock together, and so there's just this whole thing about like Leo being the team coordinator, shooting either to Nagi or to the other guy, depending on the situation, and Team Z needing to deal with this. I think this is where they end up having the shark basically always mark Nagi.
Yeah.
So that's like the shark's like only big moment, and then he's like,
Mm,
"Oh, I'm gonna get you. I'm not letting you go."
no, it's Rayo. I think he targets.
No, because Isagi marks Rayo. I thought.
Mm,
I could be wrong. It's been a while, but
mhm,
it's one of the few times the shark has a moment, and so they end up figuring out little things, right?
mhm,
Um, they find out that God, what's the name of the fast guy?
mhm. Zantetsu.
Yeah, they find out that Zantetsu, his speed is only in sprints. It's only in bursts.
Mhm.
So they're still able to use Chigiri. He's not completely locked out. If they just need to hit the ball further, right? They need to hit the
Yeah.
ball far enough where Zantetsu will hit the wall eventually on his sprint, and
Mhm,
Chigiri can just blow past him.
mhm. And like ultimately like get fit into his stride. So it's them like solving all these issues of like, okay, we got to deal with this dude like this, and then deal with this dude like this. Um, and yeah, I figure out which one, who's fucking marked.
Yeah, I don't remember who marks who, but I do remember that there's a part where all hope looks lost, right? Where team, it's gotta be Team W, yeah.
It's Team V.
All right, oh Team V, that makes sense, right? Where
Yeah.
Team V is about to score again, right?
Mhm.
And then Kuon just body checks them, like straight assaults them because he sees how hard his team is working, and even though he technically has a guaranteed spot, right?
Mhm.
He's not satisfied by just standing around and letting a 10v11 happen,
Mhm.
right? So he ends up body checking somebody, red cards out, and even though he fouled, he stopped the point.
Mhm.
And so that allowed Team Z to get a little interesting. And I think that's cool that Kuan, who they just often call the traitor, ends up getting like a little bit of a redemption arc during this match.
Yeah, and it goes into his backstory of being held back by his teammates, and that's why he doesn't trust people because uh, the people around him never had the drive that he did to win and succeed in playing soccer. Kind of
Yeah,
made you feel bad for a dude that is a pretty bad dude, but
yeah, that blatantly cheated.
mhm. And oh, so the powers, we only really went into did we even talk about Nagi's like weapon?
He's just good. He just has raw, unadulterated talent.
No, specifically he has ball control. And like how they display this is like there's this wild pass thrown to him or kicked to him, and he just like catches it with his foot like it's nothing over his back. All these crazy catches, and then immediately after is an amazing prodigy on top of that in just scoring goals and getting around
Yeah,
people.
his
Uh,
literal like his title that he's given is just genius,
mhm. And it's all effortless. He doesn't try. In fact, he just kind of thinks of soccer as a chore,
right? And like
because he
he
wants
even
to hang out with
questions
Nagi.
why
Sure.
all of his all of his opponents are even trying,
Hmm.
right? He doesn't get it. Um, but eventually, I believe Team Z ties this. Yes.
Yeah. So Team Z ties it in making these like crazy goals and working together and like evolving. Like it shows. Uh, I keep forgetting his name. Schizo.
Bachira.
Bachira, uh, like dribble the shit out of these dudes.
Oh, he breaks
Um,
some ankles.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, and like it inspires everybody else, turns that zero into a one, and then people get like uh turned into machines destroying each other.
Right? And eventually they tie, and so the tie, it's really interesting, and this is like kind of where our talks are going to come to a close as they enter the second selection.
Mhm.
But it's really interesting where through this tie we get to see which teams go on, and it's Team Z and Team V, the ones they just fought, right? And you get to
Right.
see a lot of people just be crushed because they're leaving, right? They
Yeah.
as Ego tells them they have to lock off.
I mean,
Um,
like, because beyond Team V and Z, uh, only three other people get to
the top performer
advance.
on each team, yeah.
Right. So
And
it's King Baro, uh fucking Nico and one of the
one of the
twins.
twins, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, like they lost their gimmick.
Yeah, no, they're like, I don't even remember if they move on past that. I think they do, but it's really funny because they don't have a gimmick anymore.
Mhm, mhm. It's wonderful.
And more specifically, it's the twin that doesn't talk.
Yeah. And like as Jared said, it's like this depression in everybody. And the last match was insane because after they tied it, that's when like uh Nagi like was like, I want to fucking win now.
Yeah, Nagi
This
was
isn't
not
just some
happy with the
game.
tie. Yeah.
And he turns into this monster, isn't able to make a point, but like he got really close.
Yeah, and that I
And
think that's what led Kuan to having like body check him.
no, it was so no Kuon. Oh no, Kuon body checked Rayo, and
Okay,
then Shark Dude was shadowing Rayo throughout the entire game.
I see.
Yeah. Um, but like it sets up like okay, these are the players going in. There's all these other players that they have yet to see because they're I think these teams were the first or the last 150 or something like that.
Well, it was said that teams V through Z were the worst. They were in the bottom 300 players, right?
Hmm.
And when all 5 blocks of Blue Lock converge, what the hell? There's 5 Team Zs.
Yeah.
And that's because Ego considers none of them good enough to be Team B.
Yeah, there's nobody that like man, Ego's a genius.
This
So
entire
it's
time, everyone thought they were fighting for the bottom.
yep, and it set their self-esteem down to be scared of what's next to come, and it introduced new monsters onto the field. The true rankings of Blue Lock, and starts off the what is essentially season not season
I would
two,
call
but
it season 2, but it's
the
definitely the
second
second
arc.
arc.
Yeah, of second selection.
And so just to get into a little bit of what second selection is, because it's still technically the last 12th episode.
Yeah.
Um, it's really cool because it puts each individual player in their own room where the goalie where they fight Blue Lock Man, which is a virtual goalie made with infinite resources that this company has apparently.
Mhm,
Um, and the goalie very specifically can beat whatever the player's gimmick is.
mhm.
And
They
so
slowly evolve as like an AI
it forces the players to get out of their comfort zone and do something different than just what their gimmick is known for.
and get into that uncomfortable zone that they all have. And truly, like in competitive sports, that's where you become good.
Yeah.
Like when you could be amazing at a specific thing, and like until you master the things that you're bad at, you won't be able to truly shine because you're always going to be checked by those bad things. It's something that like I struggled with growing up playing baseball. I fucking hated practicing the things I was bad at, but in ironing those things out, it helped me become a lot better.
Yeah.
Um,
And then I'll just leave the second selection at. So what ends up happening is they progress and then they're told to get into groups of 3 and the next trial will be done in groups of 3. And so Isagi's team ends up being him, Bachiro, which is his sidekick. And the interesting thing is that Nagi ends up leaving Leo to join Isagi's group
mhm.
because Nagi wanted to figure out what it means to play soccer at a higher level.
And he saw Isagi, the main character, as the answer to that. It's just set up
It's
wonderfully.
a really well set up like second season where there's a new ally and then even like a new enemy because Leo sees this as like betrayal, and
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
just really well written way to like end off the arc and head into the new one.
Hmm. Um, and in that, we're gonna cut it off here. That was the first 12 episodes of Blue Lock. Going into the intricacies of the games and talking about things we liked. We are probably gonna make another episode talking about the next 12, so
Either the
13
next
to
12
24.
or I would probably want to even get further into that, more of a general
Mhm,
talk
mhm.
than episode by episode, or I guess actually the next arc is better to do episode by episode
Yeah,
because
I,
each
I think it
episode's a
covers
different game.
more. Hmm. Because they're like smaller games.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, can't wait for that stuff. next episode of the podcast will be the One Piece arc episode covering Romance Dawn.
I can't wait. Romance Dawn is going to be it's going to be very interesting, right? We're not covering just the East Blue,
Hmm.
right? We wanted to split One Piece up into many different parts,
Hmm.
so we're just covering the very start of One Piece, not even up to like Baratier or Arlong Park, which is like big moments in East Blue, because
The
just
beginnings, yeah.
everything before that is just as good as everything after.
Yes, and those episodes in particular will have all One Piece spoilers throughout them. So just a heads up, it'll be every third episode. But yeah, we're covering Romance Dawn, and probably stuff beforehand that were released after it came out. Um, so yeah, looking forward to that. Hope you guys enjoyed the second episode covering Blue Lock, and we'll see you guys next week.
And as always, um, make sure to follow the podcast wherever you may be watching it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you would like to hear more from us, check out our gaming channel, A Clan.
Yes, and on top of that, if you have any suggestions or anime you want to see, comment down below.
Yep. And with that, we'll end it here for real this time.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.